Caribbean on HIV-AIDS, Dr. Eddie Greene.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. What an extraordinary experience. An experience intellectual, in fellowship, in reflection, and in projecting to the future. Thanks to the architects. Thanks to the co-sponsors and the various categories of stakeholders and the participants that created a spirit that is so memorable for me. What an auspicious way for me to begin a tenure as the UN Special Envoy. An occasion in which I learned of the issues in a more profound way than I had known before. That I recognize the characteristic and the vibrancy of a collective intent on basing their future actions on evidence. The character of seeing young scholars exhibit the innovative work and to see old scholars still promoting and advocating for a better society. This has truly been a path-breaking and innovative event in the annals of the region, and really has opened from the presentations that preceded me, as you would see, the frontiers to new approaches, not only across the HIV platforms, but across the spectrum of health and development to the Bahamas. Once again, at the cutting edge of history. 10 years ago, it was here in the Bahamas that the CARICOM heads of government resolved in the Nassau Declaration that the health of the region is the wealth of the region, and had indicated that there were two pillars in achieving that objective: the Caribbean Cooperation and Health, which is a collective of ideas and priorities for sharing not only research, but of action and going forward to create a healthier Caribbean. And the Pan-Caribbean Partnership Against HIV-AIDS, a specific institution comprising governments, private sector, NGOs, as well as people living with AIDS as an integral part, as well as the development partners. Now today, we celebrate the conclusion of an event in which the Bahamas again has played such a role in these 3 magnificent days. And I think we owe it to say to the government and people of the Bahamas how deeply appreciative we are that they have helped us to move towards the future. We have heard, and we should not repeat, that the character of this conference has been portrayed in so many ways in the content of the agenda, the context of the discourse, the quality of the presentation, the intensity of the contending ideas, and no doubt the compelling recommendations that we heard, the most recent one, the recommendations for the sustainability of this conference. And this conference must be sustained. this is a process that is so important because it is a process that would help to provide the new leadership, not only in AIDS, HIV/AIDS, but in public health. It is a process that would help us to connect up the evidence and the actions on human rights. It is a process that would help us to really confront the issues of equity, and in this context also the inequalities that result in the inequities that are experienced, especially the inequities of the vulnerable groups, the people living with AIDS, the MSMs, and the youth. And therefore, I think it was a very great privilege for me to have been part of a launching ceremony last night of an event and a new institution which was pioneered by the UN-AIDS and the launching of the Caribbean Coalition for Social Justice. This is a response. This is an action required as an end process to connecting evidence and actions. And I think that this conference must acknowledge the leadership role played by Dr. Ernest Messiah of the coordinating mechanism of UN-AIDS and of the Levi Strauss Foundation. I am glad that this conference took the time to pay tribute to some of our stalwarts who could only be here in spirit, and in particular, a tribute to Robert Carr, because he epitomized that spirit of moving evidence to action, and he epitomized the strength of character, and he epitomized the vision that this conference built its program upon. And although my forgetfulness has caused me to leave the specimen on my chair, I want to complement what was said before, that this is a testimony of how we move evidence to action. And in his name, I want to say I had the privilege, and I hope the Commonwealth Secretariat would provide the evidence, that I purchased the very first copy, paid for the very first copy of this book. What a way to start a tenure as the UN Special Envoy on HIV/AIDS. I hope you will tell the Secretary General. And ladies and gentlemen, as we continue to celebrate our heroes, present and past, and try to celebrate the future as we pass the baton, I heard that so often, to the new generation of leadership, we have to recognize that we move forward with the sustainability of conferences like this and the sustainability of programs that Farley Cleghorn spoke of so eloquently this morning, prevention, care, treatment, as a shared leadership, a commitment to shared leadership. And I think we continue to take leadership to the levels and new heights, and to promote and protect the legacy of this conference. Thank you.